Cyrus II, an ambitious Persian king, united the region's three major nations under his rule in the 6th century BC, forming the Achaemenid Empire. From the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River, this empire would be the largest in history. Welcome to a new episode of Royalty Stories. Cyrus was given the title, Cyrus the Great, due to his many victories and his focus on showing mercy, generosity, and compassion to his people. Cyrus the Great was born in the ancient land of Persis around 600 BC to King Cambyses I of Anshan and Queen Mandana of Media. Cyrus's parents traced their lineage back to King Achaemenes, whose legendary eponymous dynasty was founded in the city of Anshan in the late 8th century BC. Since his grandfather also went by the name Cyrus, we can call this man Cyrus II. The Persian word for sun, Kurash, was chosen as his given name to honor the sky deity worshipped by his people. King Astyages, Cyrus' paternal grandfather and king of the Median Empire, had a dream that water sprang from his pregnant daughter Mandana's womb and flooded his whole empire shortly before Cyrus' birth, as told by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC. The dream, according to his advisors, foretold his grandson's eventual overthrow of him as king. Due to his paranoia, Astyages married Mandana off to Cambyses I, king of Anshan, even though he knew that the young son of such a weak and small ruler could never threaten his position. In the dream that follows, Astyages sees the vines that began in Mandana's womb engulfing his realm. With his paranoia at an all-time high, Astyages gave the order to his most senior general, Harpagus, to kill the newborn. Unable to commit such a heinous act on his own, Harpagus had one of his herders, Mithridates, kill his newborn son. After giving birth to a stillborn child, Mithridates and his wife hoped to use the opportunity to raise Cyrus as their own child in secret from Harpagus. Cyrus allegedly earned the attention of his grandfather, King Astyages, when he soundly defeated the son of a nobleman who had refused to follow his instructions during a game of king and court among children. Cyrus and his adoptive father Mithridates were summoned to King Astyages after the injury of a nobleman's child. Mithridates revealed to Harpagus that, for the past 10 years, he had been secretly raising Cyrus. Upon witnessing Cyrus playing king and court, the advisors to Astyages were convinced that the prophet's prophecy that the child would one day become king had come true. As a result, Cyrus was given the green light to visit his birth parents in Anshan. When Cyrus's parents refused to follow Astyages' order to murder their infant son, he had Harpagus' son, who was 13 at the time, cooked, roasted, and sliced into little bits as punishment. Then, at a lavish feast, he had Harpagus eat his own son. When Harpagus was served the severed head, hands, and feet of his son, he said calmly, "Anything my king does, pleases me." Harpagus planned his vengeance after returning his son's body home and burying it. Cyrus was crowned king of Anshan in 559 BC, following the death of his father, Cambyses I. Like many regional kings, Cyrus owed his position to his grandfather, the reigning Median monarch Astyages. After Cyrus defied his grandfather's authority and started a war with him in 553 BC, Astyages sent an army led by Harpagus after his grandson. Astyages failed to notice that Harpagus had incited Cyrus to rebel against his grandpa. Harpagus took advantage of the situation by switching allegiances with his army and fighting on Cyrus' side in order to get even with Astyages for the death of his son. After a bloody 3-year conflict, Cyrus took control of the Median Empire by seizing the city of Ecbatana as its capital. Cyrus spared his grandfather's life and married his daughter to appease a number of Media's former vassal states. Cyrus had previously wed a Persian noblewoman named Cassandana. 2 sons and 3 daughters were born to the purportedly in-love couple. And Cyrus took additional wives for political reasons. After removing Astyages, Cyrus focused on merging the two Achaemenid kingdoms of Parsa and Anshan into the larger state of Persia. The Achaemenid Empire was established after Cyrus conquered Media and Persia. This was the first Persian Empire. It was Croesus, king of Lydia, who hoped to take advantage of unrest in the east in order to expand his own territory. After consulting the Oracle of Delphi, which predicted the destruction of a great empire should the king launch an attack on Cyrus, the king was swayed to launch an attack on the Persian ruler. Croesus, encouraged by the oracle's prediction, led his army into Persian territory and occupied the region of Cappadocia. In open battle, the invading Lydian forces met Cyrus and his Persian army at Pteria in March of 547 BC. Both sides suffered significant losses during the battle, which ended in a draw. In order to await reinforcements from Sparta, Egypt, and Babylon, Croesus and his army withdrew to the Lydian capital of Sardis. Winter was coming, and he figured that would make Cyrus think twice about fighting. However, in December 547 BC, the Persian king made the unconventional decision to march his army toward the Lydian town of Thymbra, where he was met by a force twice the size of his own. It was noted by Harpagus that the sight and smell of camels frightened the Lydian horses, so he suggested to Cyrus that he surround his archers with camels. The Persian bowmen were then able to wreak havoc on the charging Lydian cavalry. Continuing on, in 546 BC Cyrus besieged the Lydian capital of Sardis, eventually taking it after 14 days of fighting. The phrase, rich as Croesus, was originally used to describe King Croesus, who at the time was the world's richest person. The fact that gold was adopted by the Persians as their primary currency so soon after their conquest of Lydia attests to his extraordinary wealth. Croesus's fate is unclear. Some sources say he was executed by fire, while others say he advised Cyrus. The Persian king enjoyed the company of many different advisors, including those he had previously considered to be his enemies. Before this, Cyrus had said, "We love ourselves despite our faults, and we ought to love our friends in like manner." People aren't perfect, so if you're looking for a friend without flaws, you'll never find one. When Cyrus commanded a Lydian named Pactyas to bring Croesus' fortune to Persia, Pactyas instead hired mercenaries and incited a revolt with the money. The Persian king quickly put down the uprising led by Pactyas and regained complete control of Anatolia. Pactyas was supposed to be delivered to Cyrus alive, but it is unclear what happened to the traitor in the end. Several kingdoms made futile attempts to oppose the Persians, while others voluntarily bowed to the empire. The latter saw how Cyrus treated his subjects fairly and with respect, and how he defeated the powerful king Astyages. At all times, be a liberator, as the king of Persia once advised. Individual liberty, respect for one's own worth, and material prosperity. These three things make for the greatest happiness for all people. The love of your people will last forever if you leave them these three things. By 540 BC, Cyrus had expanded his empire all the way to the doorstep of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, having conquered the kingdom of Elam in eastern Mesopotamia and its capital of Susa. Nabonidus, king of Babylon at the time, had taken the throne in a coup. The Babylonians viewed the Persian king as a potential liberator after Nabonidus's power grab made him unpopular by angering the city's chief god, Marduk. At the Battle of Opis in 539 BC, Cyrus soundly defeated the Babylonian army and then, a few days later, captured Babylon, which was widely considered the greatest city of its time. He was able to pull off this incredible feat by devising a cunning plan to attack the 350-foot-tall defense walls of Babylon, which were surrounded by a deep moat fed by the Euphrates River. Cyrus ordered the river to be redirected into a nearby canal, creating a shallow entrance for his troops to sneak into the city at night. After a successful siege, Nabonidus quickly capitulated, ending thousands of years of Sumerian and Akkadian rule in Babylon and making him the city's last independent king. The Nabonidus Chronicle, written in Babylonian script on a clay tablet, is the most famous account of the city's destruction. Some academics believe that the Babylonian priests of Marduk wrote this to smear King Nabonidus after he tried to introduce worship of the unpopular moon god Sin. The Persian king proclaimed himself, Cyrus, king of the universe, the great king, the powerful king, king of Babylon, king of Sumer and Akkad, king of the four quarters of the world, after his monumental conquest of Babylon. While Cyrus rose to become the most powerful man on earth, he never let his position or influence corrupt his innate good character. He once remarked, "Men who respond to good fortune with modesty and kindness are harder to find than those who face adversity with courage." After the Persian conquest of Babylon, the king issued an edict known as the Cyrus Cylinder, which has been called the first human rights charter in history by academics. The Cyrus Cylinder mandated the return of exiled Jews to their ancestral lands and the revival of their temples and religious rites. The Hebrew Bible books of Isaiah and Ezra describe this well-known policy, which led to the return of the Jews who had been exiled by Nebuchadnezzar 50 years earlier. Cyrus was presented as a divinely appointed savior by the Israelite prophet Isaiah, who gave him the title, Messiah, or Anointed One of Yahweh, in the 8th century BC. The Jewish people have only ever recognized one non-Jewish individual as the Messiah, and that person was the king of Persia. Cyrus was presumed to have been a devout Zoroastrian, though we know very little about his actual religious beliefs. The ancient Persian religion of Zoroastrianism is monotheistic and centers on the worship of a god named Ahura Mazda. Zoroaster, a religious reformer from the 6th century BC, is widely credited as the founder of the religion. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all look to it as an inspiration, so it's no surprise that it's one of the world's oldest religions. Many innovative military and non-military tactics were developed under Cyrus' direction and leadership. The most well-known is probably the formation of the Immortals, a group of elite soldiers who acted as both heavy infantry units in battle and personal bodyguards for the Persian king. Thanks to their superior training and arsenal, the Immortals were feared and respected by their enemies. The term, Immortals, was given to the military because of their policy of replacing fallen warriors with fresh recruits as soon as possible. Cyrus did not destroy the cultures of the peoples he conquered. Rather, he sought to learn from them and frequently adopted their policies, fashions, and organizational systems. Each of the 4 capital cities of Cyrus' empire, Pasargadae, Ekbatana, Babylon, and Susa, had some autonomy while still paying tribute to the Persian king. A satrap served as a kind of governor over each of the empire's 26 provinces, which were called satrapies. Generals and state secretaries were put in charge of the satrapies to help with administration. Success with this method led to its adoption by later rulers like Alexander the Great, who 2 centuries later conquered Persia. Cyrus used the wealth amassed from his conquests to finance his numerous construction endeavors and military ventures. Thanks to this, he was able to reduce taxes across the empire, earning him widespread acclaim. According to what he once said, success always calls for greater generosity, though most people, lost in the darkness of their own egos, treat it as an occasion for greater greed. Acquiring wealth serves as a means to an end, the establishment of a powerful empire. At this point in time, wealth wouldn't help us much, unless we used it to make some new friends. While the specifics of Cyrus the Great's death remain murky, Herodotus suggests that the nomadic Massagetae were responsible. Cyrus proposed to wed Tomiris, the warrior queen and new widow of the Massagetae throne. Tomiris, however, turned down the proposal of marriage and ordered the Persian king out of her country immediately. Cyrus, however, was not willing to avoid conflict with the queen and her nomad warriors. Cyrus strategically placed his weakest soldiers with large quantities of wine while he hid with his strongest men, taking advantage of the Massagetae's lack of experience with alcohol's intoxicating effects. Tomiris's only son led the Massagetae to victory over the helpless Persian army. Cyrus waited for the Massagetae soldiers to become inebriated from the wine before ambushing and slaughtering them. Tomirus's wrath was justified. The queen's son had been captured and, in the end, had committed suicide. In 530 BC's December, the warrior queen led her own army into battle against Cyrus's, ultimately resulting in the king's death. Tomirus allegedly severed Cyrus' head and dipped it in his blood while mockingly exclaiming, "Drink your fill of blood." Cyrus was buried in the city of Pasargadae, the Persian capital, in a golden coffin with a collection of treasures after the Persians were allowed to retrieve their king's body. Cyrus, who won the Persians their empire, is remembered on his tombstone with the words, "Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for I know you will come. Therefore, please don't feel bad for giving my skeleton a resting place in the ground." In the chaos that followed Alexander the Great's invasion of Persia, his tomb was ransacked and the treasures stolen. The king of Macedonia went to great lengths to repair Cyrus's tomb, which is still there today despite the many battles that have been fought nearby over the years. Alexander's adoration of Cyrus the Great can be traced in large part to Xenophon's biography of the Persian king, Cyropedia. Literally, the education of Cyrus. The Persian king was lauded by the Greek philosopher who wrote, "He honored his subjects and cared for them as if they were his own children, and they, on the other hand, revered Cyrus as a father." The ancient world held Cyrus the Great in high regard as the ideal leader, and he is often described as a philosopher king. "Briefness is the lifeblood of authority," he once remarked. If a leader is constantly babbling, it's likely because they're desperate. Talk quickly, confidently, and directly to the point, and frame your wants in terms of such intuitive reasoning that they cannot be contested. Then you should just move on. Cyrus the Great, through his indefatigable willpower and unprecedented generosity, established the First Persian Empire and cemented his place in history as one of the most pivotal figures of antiquity. Don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos.